Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the DeLuz Brothers. I am Craig DeLuz.
I'm David DeLuz.
Now, many of you may know us, and many of you may not know us. But for those of you who don't, I am a conservative Republican.
And I'm a liberal Democrat.
And we are twin brothers who live in
right.
Sacramento, California. And, we're both, I'd like to say, fairly politically involved.
And just a little bit.
Yeah. And anyway, so we've been debating politics for decades on local media here in the Sacramento area, and have decided to kind of expand and take our fight to the Weber nets.
The Weber nets. Okay.
Anyway, so today what we wanted to talk about was we just wanted to kind of introduce you guys to who we are and kind of how did two brothers who grew up in the same family. I mean, twin brothers grew up in the same family.
Shared a room.
Shared a room. I like that. Shared a room, shared a womb. Yeah. But grew up to have two, relatively different political perspectives. So, first of all, I'll just throw it to you, David. What is it that you believe makes or made you a Democrat?
Well, I think a couple of things, but I think it all starts and quite frankly ends with our parents. They were a little bit older. East Bay, raised us in the East Bay. My parents were active in the Niagara Democratic Party. The politics that they talked, for the most part, centered around the Democratic Party. But I think what they did was they gave us an appreciation for being black. They gave us an appreciation for America, but they also gave us an appreciation for justice and what's right and what's wrong. And as I became a little older and started thinking about ways to get involved, politics seemed like a natural outlet for me. And one of the things that I started to look for was history and what party would best fit me. Of course, I think because my parents were Democrats, the Democratic Party was the party that I was going to eventually go into. But I think a couple of things influenced my decision. One is looking at the civil rights movement and the fact that President Lyndon Johnson and Kennedy and even FDR and Harry Truman, I think in the 20th century, really ushered in the policy prescriptions that started to create a more just America. I think the other thing that I looked at was economic performance. And when you look at historically, when you look at times of boom and bust, Democrats have reigned in the White House in times when there was record economic expansion. And when you have, when you look at the record, the two worst times that America's ever had, actually the three worst times America's ever had, we had Republican presidents. You know, Lincoln during the Civil War, Hoover, who ushered us into the Great Depression, and then finally Bush, who ushered us into the Great Recession.
Wow. Okay. There's so much there to unravel. First of all, so in other words, because he was president who sought to end slavery, that makes him one of the worst presidents. At least that's according
economic
to what,
performance. Economic performance.
I'm sorry, civil wars tend to have bad economic impact. But look, all that we're gonna have a debate on those.
You asked me why, and I told you.
I asked you why. See, what was interesting though was I noticed that my dear brother ignored the history of the Democratic Party because, see, now, just taking a step back, I grew up Richmond, California. For those of you who do not know Richmond, California, it was a very diverse community. When I say diverse, it was mostly white and black, some Latino, but it was a significant African American population. And I wound up going to college at California State University, Chico. which if those of you who know Chico, it's the exact opposite. It was 3% African American. But what really made it interesting was it was more diverse when it came to the issue of politics, meaning it was the first time I really had a chance to hear from people who were of a different political bent. Now, the interesting thing is David talked a little bit about the values that our parents had. Well, our parents were very conservative. My mother, when it came to foreign policy, was probably just to the right of Pat Buchanan. She believed in traditional marriage.
Yep.
She believed she was hardcore pro-life.
Yep.
I mean, she adopted 4 of her 6 kids were adopted. That's how pro-life my parents were. Devout Catholics, but I mean, it believed in individual responsibility. Really, what it came down to was the values that my parents raised us with. I came to find as I became an adult were inconsistent with the values of the Democratic Party, and really one of the things that really got me, and this was probably a real turning point for me. I ran for AS president at Chico State. I won the election. I got 50.6% of the vote. I was the first black AS president in their school's history. Now, the interesting thing was that I was supported by both the Yaffers, or the Young Americans for Freedom, which is a very conservative group, as well as the Progressive Student Union, which is a very liberal group. The Young Americans for Freedom supported me because I laid out a detailed plan of what I wanted to do. I talked about fiscal responsibility, making sure that the student fees were not being wasted, and the students' businesses were being run efficiently, and yada, yada, yada. The Progressive Student Union supported me because, well, I was a student of color, and they believed that I would champion ethnic issues. So here's the thing. So the group that would purport to say that I should have been supported based on the content of my character was actually supporting me because of the color of my skin. And the group that they would say would oppose me because of the color of my skin was supporting me because of the content of my character. And that was a real eye-opener because I hadn't heard any positive things about Republicans before then. So that really kind of opened the door for me to really stop and really listen as to what the two parties had to say and what they stood for. What I found more and more was that one party just did not represent the values that I was raised with. And then I started to do some real investigation. I started to look into things like, well, gee, who fought to keep slavery? That would be the Democratic Party.
Which is now the Republican Party.
Who instituted Jim Crow laws? The Democratic Party.
Which is now the Republican Party.
No, that is not true. That is a fallacy that y'all keep trying to purport. But also, who instituted black codes? That would be the Democratic Party. Who sought to disarm people of color? That would be the Democratic Party. Who instituted a welfare system that turned into basically a new form of slavery in our communities? The Democratic Party. Who's run you look at every single community that is the urban community that is low income, where black people live, that is low income, that is a high crime, that is high unemployment, that has all of these issues, right? And every single one of them for generations has been run by the Democratic Party. And so I just had to look at it and say, well, you know what? Whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working. So maybe it's time to take a look at another solution. And by the way, let me just say this. I'm not one to say that all black people need to be Republicans. What I am here to say is this, is that by giving our vote, 90+% of it away to just one party, we have basically made ourselves politically irrelevant in these United States.
Well,
in many elections.
I can appreciate your version of your coming of age and figuring out why you want to be Republican, but my challenge with your thesis is that the people who supported you from the Progressive Student Union, what was that group called?
Progressive Student Union.
The Progressive Student Union. They didn't just judge you by the color of your skin. I think they made some assumptions about what your policy positions would be, not just because they wanted to vote for an African American. They, just like people use party as a shortcut, as an informational shortcut, people use race as an informational shortcut.
You mean
not
like
that they don't care. Hold on.
So you mean like
hold on,
you mean
Greg,
like
let
okay.
me finish.
All right, let's finish.
Not that they don't care about the content of your platform or your priorities as president, but they used your race as a shortcut in information, figuring that your politics would be in alignment with their politics. So policy is just as important to those folks who look at race as they do party.
Policy based on, and the only thing they had to go by was my skin color. That was the only thing they had to judge me by, because they didn't ask me any questions about where I stood on stuff.
But they could read your platform, Craig. I'm sure you printed up a flyer.
Yes, I printed up.
Okay, so they can read your flyer.
See, but the other interesting thing is he says that, and yet and still there is policy issue after policy issue where, let's just be real, Democrats have not delivered in our communities. A great one is school choice, right? Now, the interesting thing is that if you find a Democrat who opposes school choice, they're generally supported by the teachers' unions. And if you find one that opposes it, not only are they not supported by the teachers' unions, but usually they tend to be black or brown. And the reason why they represent that position is because they realize that the traditional public school model is failing black and brown kids the most.
Well, I think what you're hitting on, Craig, is the fracture within the Democratic Party, which is also, as you know, happening in the Republican Party. That's what makes what we do so interesting, I think, to people, that we sort of are able to talk and walk over those fractures and try to make sense of it, but also we can do it in a way where we can argue but still love each other. We can disagree without being disagreeable. And I think that's one of the blessings that we have, being brothers and being so close, even though we're polar opposites on most things, in terms of, sports teams, politics, all the colors, colors that we wear, fraternities. We're polar opposites, but I think we can.
I think you
come together.
I think you hit an important note. And this was, I really do believe that, unfortunately, one of the things that social media has done has really kind of degraded the quality of discussion and conversation that we're able to have about politics. And now, and I know people want to just blame Donald Trump, but I really do believe that people who are in the national leadership right now really have set a negative tone in terms of being able to talk about politics and issues. And really, they've come to realize that it's the visceral comments that have the greatest impact. And so instead of really just dealing with and talking about policy, they go after visceral issues. And the one thing that I think my brother and I are able to do in these conversations, it's not that we're not going to get personal. Right. It's not that I ain't going to talk about him. But the thing is that I don't assume the worst of him.
Right.
And he doesn't assume the worst of me. And it's important, though, that we be able to have conversations about policy. Bring the facts to the table. Let's debate them. Now, by the way, just so you know, bro, you're entitled to your own opinion. You are not entitled to your own facts. So
I agree.
Just like the president said, we ain't bringing no alternative facts here. But I think that you guys will enjoy the conversation. So we want to encourage you guys. We're going to be running the show every Friday.
Yep.
So, you guys tune in. Make sure, check us out at facebook.com/DeLuz Brothers. Remember to follow us and hit the notification button. Also, you can find us on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and Google the DeLuz Brothers and you'll find us. But we hope that you guys will join in the conversation. Send us notes, messages. Let us know what you guys think. During the week, we'll probably be on there. We'll be on there commenting as well. So I want to encourage you guys to do that. Get involved in the discussion. If you have a topic you'd like to hear us talk about,
that's right,
let us know. This is not just our show. Obviously, we're not just doing this for ourselves. We're doing this because, we want to have a conversation, and we're hoping that you will join us in that conversation. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Well, folks, that is going to be it for this week's DeLuz Brothers. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thank you.
Yes, very much. And we appreciate you guys liking and sharing the program.
Click that button. Clickety-click.
Clickety-click, clickety-click. Anyway, you guys take care. You guys have a good weekend. God bless you. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.